This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Coming up on this week's programme, illegal constructions in the mountains threaten some of our waterways.
This construction is happening without the official notifications that every single construction has to have on the island.
The Cyprus Symphony Orchestra is running a competition to find talented young soloists.
So the finalists will have the opportunity to perform with the orchestra in a concert either on the 11th or the 12th of December of this year, conducted by the maestro Charles Olivier Munro.
And the interconnector between Cyprus and Greece is still very much in the news. Should the government chip in, despite the fact that there has been no technical due diligence investigation? The rape of our island apparently continues unabated. I was flabbergasted to see reports earlier that not only Petra Duromiu, that's the birthplace of Aphrodite, is slated to become a public beach. Well, it's always been open to the public, but this means that there will be sunbeds, umbrellas, and probably a kiosk selling refreshments so you don't have to cross the road to go to the one that's already there. It's unbelievable. And then we have the story of an apparently well-known architect. Everybody seems to be very cagey about naming him, although I understand that the name is known, who has started building a 3-story house in an area of the mountains that is very close to a Natura 2000 site, and the building works he's conducting has cut off the flow of one of our rivers. Now, you know that Cyprus has a water problem, so any interference with our rivers is a very serious problem indeed. I've asked Effie Xanthou, who is Secretary General of the Ecological Movement, to join us and bring us up to speed. Effie, let's start, if we may, with the plans by, I understand, the Deputy Minister of Tourism, no less, to put sunbeds on one of our most beautiful, unspoilt beaches.
Well, that's just it. It just seems like nobody is realizing that to have a beautiful, pristine beach that isn't raped by having all these umbrellas and beds on it is what makes that spot so popular. I don't understand how the Deputy Minister of Tourism himself is basically quoted as saying, why the hell don't we have any beds and umbrellas on this beach? We should fix this immediately, which is how the whole thing started. Because the local authorities have been trying to put beds on those beaches for many years now, and all the ecological organizations have been trying to stop that for like a very long time. And now there's only an impetus towards doing it because the current Deputy Minister for Tourism has decided that, yes, this is a spot that we have to create into looking like every other single beach on the island right now.
I think we should alert people to the fact that when we say Petra Duromiu and the birthplace of Aphrodite, it is that iconic photographic spot where the rock emerges from the sea, where she's supposed to have emerged from the sea, and the fact that there are no sunbeds means that you can get a photograph and enjoy the area unspoilt completely.
Yes, but it's not just that. This is a place that has been included in the Natura 2000 areas that are protected by the EU Directive for Natura areas because it's so pristine. And it also is adjoining the area where we have the specific Eleonora falcons reproducing and obviously other species of fauna and flora in the area. And there are very minimum things that you can do in Natura 2000 areas anyway. But also, there is a reason that it hasn't been characterized as a beachgoer's beach, because it's dangerous. We don't want people to be encouraged to swim out in the open. We don't want to have lifeguards in the area because it's a dangerous seabed. So it's a spot where you can go and hang out. It's a spot where you can have the most magnificent photos of the sunrise and the sunset. it's so beautiful to be able to see what a beach would be like if we hadn't interfered with it. And if you want to, swim a bit on the edge, that's fine, but not to go further in. We've had many deaths in that area during the last couple of years, so people are warned by signs. And yet, we have the local authorities want to put beds and umbrellas, basically putting a high risk on people's lives because they want to see the income.
Are we sure this is going ahead? Is it just a proposal, or is it just going to happen anyway, like so many things apparently do here?
Do we want to have to wait to find out? It's one of the reasons that we've been trying and yelling and screaming about things even before they're put down on paper or money is allocated, because that's the only way that we can get people to understand what kind of response they're going to get. I mean, we've tried many times and it hasn't worked. Like, for instance, the other issue that you would like us to speak about today, the house that is being built on the riverbed in Platris. Now, we had an early warning about the beginning of construction in that area, and we went to the authorities and we said that something's going on here. Well, how did you give a license? Does this person have a license? And the respective authorities said, yes, we gave a license for the construction, and we also gave a license for the riverbed, and we were actually giving him the length of the distance that he has to have from the riverbed, so everything is fine. And a couple of months later, basically the house is being constructed, and there is interference with the riverbed, and there are a lot of cement blocks, and there's a lot of rocks that have been put and have been diverting the riverbed from that area. It's really mind-boggling. And also, I mean, you mentioned that nobody says the name. Well, George Papadopoulos is the name. He's an architect in Limassol. And yesterday he was on Canal Yexio, on the radio, trying to explain his position, basically saying that he's being dragged through the mud, and that what we see in the videos and the pictures from the area does not correspond to reality. So basically, I'm going to make sure that I see my eye doctor when I come back to Nicosia in September.
My understanding was that the permission he was given gave him, he had to have a certain distance from the river, and he has infringed that big time.
Yes, he has said on his radio interview yesterday that they changed the riverbed because during construction things were falling into the river, so they wanted to be sure that they wouldn't be taken downstream. So basically he interfered in the riverbed because he's such a nice person. He has been collecting all the debris that has been falling, and when construction is going to finish, they're going to remove that. So he's already basically saying live that he has interfered into the riverbed, and he is saying that his construction is close enough that it actually was throwing debris in the riverbed, which is strictly forbidden. He was supposed to stay 5 meters away from the riverbed, and obviously he didn't. He has mentioned it himself. This is not something that somebody else has been saying on his behalf. And he insists that he has asked the authorities to go with him on site when the respective authorities, which is the Department for Water and Riverbeds and the Commissioner for Environment, have both said that they have already been there. They have already noted down the violations that have happened, and they're already in the process of notifying him officially about all the things that he needs to do. And already for a month now, he has been forbidden to continue construction because of the complaints that have come in from people that are living in the area. Also, it should be mentioned that there will be a complaint made to EDEC, which is the civil engineers and architects
the technical chamber.
I'm not sure about the translation.
The technical chamber.
Thank you so much. I didn't remember the English translation, but we will be making a complaint to them because this construction is happening without the official notifications that every single construction has to have on the island. It's how a layman would know, or layperson actually, would know if a construction has been is up to par, is according to the legislation, because we have to note who the architect is, we have to note who the civil engineer is, and the company that is actually undertaking the construction.
All of whom, I presume, Effie, are members of EDEC. So why are they still members if they aren't obeying the rules?
Well, when there is a complaint about a member of a DEG, there is a specific committee that will be looking into that complaint and deciding if it's, basically if there's basis to the complaint and how they will deal with their member, whether it will be about a slap on the wrist or if they will be ejected from the bureau for so-and-so months or years.
Well, let's hope that committee takes it more seriously than the disciplinary committee of the medical council. We see them doing absolutely nothing. I mean, this is all just allowing things to continue.
Yes, because it seems like everybody is just, lying back on their laurels and just saying it's not my problem. I did what I needed to do. Now somebody else has to take over, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we are becoming incorrigible, and at some point something's got to give. People have to start realizing that there are legislations and that there are repercussions if things are not done in the way that they should be. So
what about sorry, Effie, what about the environmental impact study that surely had to be done before construction even started? Was it carried out, and who carried it out?
Well, that's the other interesting bit. He got a license without any environmental impact study happening, even though it was going to be next to the riverbed. So again, this brings us to the big question. We've been hearing the Minister of Interior saying that he wants to speed up the processes of giving licenses. So this construction, for instance, is supposed to be a home. It's supposed to be a small building that would not need to have any special permit for it to go forward. But there is an environmental aspect to it, which, if there's a fast-track process, might be overlooked. So the one problem that we have is that, the soundbite of getting things sped up would mean possible environmental issues. The second problem is that there seems to be a discrepancy between the environmental maps that we have, which is basically which areas have to be safeguarded, where the Natura 2000 areas are, where you have the special protected zones for birds, and so on and so forth. And the riverbeds are one of these areas. I mean, riverbeds and how do I call it? A no building zone should be implemented in these environmental maps, but they don't seem to be incorporated in the building maps that we have, in the local planning authority maps. So when the application came for this house to be constructed, nobody realized, or they didn't want to realize, because that's another issue, that there would have been an environmental aspect to this construction going on, because it wasn't incorporated in their maps. And we've seen this many times. It's environmental impact assessments. It's also the maps that we have been churning millions out to create for mobility, and they don't seem to be incorporated in the planning maps. So we gave, for instance, €1.5 million for the map for mobility, for smart mobility for Nicosia, and that was 7 or 8 years ago, and it hasn't been incorporated in the Nicosia maps. So we have constructions that are now, basically disrupting the plans that we had to ensure mobility, to ensure that people could be using alternative ways of, going to work or going to school or whatever.
Who's responsible for these maps? I mean, are we back to the town planning department again?
Yes, we are back to town planning, and we are also back to the land registry, because land registry should be incorporating these in the maps as well. Now, for instance, in this particular situation, the Platres construction that we were discussing, there is also an aspect of the construction blocking a public pedestrian walk, monopati. And these are supposed to be very, very well protected, because it gives access to people to the common areas, and the riverbeds are common areas. Nobody can have sealed access to riverbeds, and supposedly nobody is supposed to have sealed access to the seabed. But it seems that this construction has actually done that, because people had to get into the construction to get the photos and the videos that we had. And somebody has been telling me that this guy, this architect, is trying to file a complaint about people walking in his land, in his property.
Even though he is the one who has actually blocked what I understand you to be saying is a public footpath.
Yes. because that's what we do now in Cyprus. Whoever yells the most or whoever lies the most and repeats it constantly is the one that is believed. The inadequacy of the people who looked into this situation, whether it was the water department, whether it was the planning bureau, whether it was the local district officer, because until like 2 months ago, these kind of licenses went through the district office. It's only now, since basically the 1st of July, that it's the district councils that are going to be responsible for these. And I understand that the newly elected district council, Mr. Loftas, visited the area with the Commissioner for Environment, Ms. Antonia Theodosiou. So we're basically hoping that there will be a new kind of, there will be a new way of dealing with these situations immediately.
Well, immediately is the moot word there, isn't it? Because if this is allowed to continue, the damage won't be able to be put right.
Well, I think that it's already been established that there have been interventions that were not actually in the planning permit from the owner, so those will definitely have to go down. But we have so many similar cases where they haven't been basically ripped out, and we haven't had restoration to the prior condition in Limassol and in other districts. So we're hoping that the new council will actually take this to heart and start fixing the problem. I mean, Larnaca started with the demolition of illegal constructions on the Bervoglia beachfront, and there's numerous of those going on in all the districts, also other instances in Larnaca itself. But we're hoping that this will be a new era, where, your previous non-mobilization as an organization will not be considered to be a problem, because it's a new organization and they can start from scratch. So the complaints are going to be going in, they're going to be looking into the issue one by one, and they will start with the demolitions. And that is what is going to stop people from being illegal, from illegally constructing whatever they want, because they felt like nobody's going to come and rip it down, nobody's going to come and stop me.
That's been the problem here for years, hasn't it? And then we have amnesties that say, okay, well, it was several years ago, get on with it. Unfortunately.
And we're not talking about decades, we're talking about centuries, because that's how it was. People just felt that they would be, immune to whatever it is that the legislation says for each instance of infringement.
Well, it's all very worrying, and God forbid that the blocking of this Krios Potamos springs from Chionistra on the Olympus mountain that runs through Platras and many other villages all year round at the moment, and of course feeds the very popular Caledonian and Milomeri waterfalls. If that is blocked and we lose those as well, it's a disaster not just for tourism in the area, for probably agriculture in the area, but also for the simple fact that Cypriot citizens are being denied the right to enjoy our beautiful island. Effie, we'll follow this with interest. Keep us informed, please, and many thanks for your time.
Most definitely, and thank you so much for having me on your show.
That is Effie Xanthor, Secretary-General of the Ecological Movement.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
The Cyprus Symphony Orchestra Foundation has issued a call for applications with a deadline of the 3rd of September. So if you're back from your holidays, you need to get in there quickly. It's calling for young soloists. Now, to tell us all about it is Constantia Elia. Constantia, tell us, first of all, what the Young Soloists competition is about and what's in it for the people who win.
Hello, Rosie. Thank you very much for hosting this and promoting it. Yes, indeed, the Cyprus Symphony Orchestra Foundation has been supporting young soloists through competitions such as this since 2011. This specific call is for young people, young soloists, up to the age of 30 years old by the 11th of December. And the aim is to give them an opportunity to perform as soloists with the Cyprus Symphony Orchestra, which they will have the chance to do so if they get to the final. So the finalists will have the opportunity to perform with the orchestra in a concert either on the 11th or the 12th of December of this year, conducted by the maestro Charles Olivier Munro. As the procedure for applying, which, as you said, the deadline is the 3rd of September, 1 p.m., is by sending an email completing the application form, which people can find on the website of the Cyprus Symphony Orchestra Foundation, which is www.cyso.org.cy, and go to the announcements section, where you can download the announcement with full details about how to apply. Also, very important is to say that other than the age limit, is that the applicants must be either Cypriot citizens or permanent residents of Cyprus, that is to hold a work permit for Cyprus. And the instruments that we accept is basically all the instruments of a symphony orchestra, which is strings, woodwinds, brass, percussion, harp, as well as, in addition, pianists or voice, but singers.
So if people listening to this who have been studying music for a considerable time and meet all those age restrictions, they fill in the form, and then do they all get a chance to perform with the symphony orchestra, or do they have to go through a selection process?
Yeah, basically we will receive the applications by the 3rd of September, and then the finalists who will get the chance to perform in December with the orchestra will be selected by a committee consisting of the artistic committee of the Cyprus Symphony Orchestra musicians, as well as the maestro of the concerts, Charles Olivier Munro. And there is the final stage of the competition, where the winner, so to speak, of the competition will be selected by the Cyprus Symphony Orchestra musicians by secret voting on the general rehearsal of the December concerts, and this one person will receive an additional opportunity to perform as soloist with the Cyprus Symphony Orchestra during the following artistic season 2025-2026. All the young people out there who are looking for a chance to show their talent, to apply.
Right, now what are the chances of people who enter this competition of actually being considered in the future by the orchestra when you're looking for new permanent members?
Well, in fact, there is no correlation between applying for this specific competition, and because it's a totally different procedure to apply for a permanent position in the orchestra. Once there is a place for a permanent member, there will be a separate call for that.
But then presumably the young soloists who have shone in this competition would be well advised to apply for that, because you'll already know them in a sense, won't you?
Yes, of course they will be most welcome to apply for any permanent position in the orchestra.
Now, when they're...
as long as they are not pianists or singers, where the orchestra does not accommodate that.
Permanently, they tend to be guests, don't they? So
yes,
what about what the competitors are going to play? Is it something that you set them, or can they come along with the piece that they prefer to do?
Basically, it's important to say that the applicants will be notified of whether they are going to pass in the final to perform in December by the 4th of October, and they will be notified then about what they will be performing with the orchestra. Basically, it will be discussed between the selected finalists and the artistic committee about what to perform.
Yes, but what I mean, Constantia, what I mean is if they enter for the competition by the 3rd of September, can they choose the piece that they present as the first piece they play?
In order to, as part of the application, they will have to submit a link of a piece that they're performing. So that's going to be what they will be competing.
So they'll all have part of their archives or whatever showing their talents.
Yeah, showing their best performance, so to speak, in order to go to the final. But that does not mean that they will be performing the specific piece with the orchestra, because obviously they will be performing a concert piece with the
Fair
orchestra.
enough. So
but they can apply by performing, let's say, a sonata with a pianist.
Right, now
Like
then, give us the
violin and
details once again, if you will, Constantia, for anybody who perhaps came in late to our chat. We're looking for young soloists for the competition this year, and the application deadline is the 3rd of September. The details of where they can find the application form, please, once again.
They have to go to the Cyprus Symphony Orchestra Foundation website, which is www.cyso.org.cy, and then go to the announcements section and find the announcement for the Young Soloists Competition 2024. And there they will find the announcement with all the information and the rules of the competition and the application form, which, let's repeat, they have to send by the 3rd of September at 1 p.m. by email to my colleague Antigone Antoniou.
And I presume that the email address is on the application. It's been a pleasure talking to you once again. Let's hope that our talent emerges in time for this and those concerts in December. Many thanks for joining me.
Get in touch with the Cyprus News Digest by emailing cyprusnewsdigest@gmail.com.
And in other news this week, well, the Great Sea Interconnector saga rumbles on. The Permanent Secretary of the Finance Ministry said earlier this week that his ministry is not in a position to put forth any concrete statement regarding the project's risks. He said the government wasn't given access to the interconnector's financing plan and was not privy to the details of Greece's Independent Power Transmission Operator, or ADMI's, agreements with technology companies who were going to build the relevant cables and voltage converters. ADMI is Greece's independent power transmission operator, and it wants consumers both in Greece and Cyprus to start contributing towards the cable project while it's under construction. That would ensure for them a steady stream of revenue. They say it would help them draw in other investors like banks. But of course there's a geopolitical risk. What happens if Turkey decides to harass cable-laying ships in the Aegean? SERA, the Cyprus energy regulator, has been standing firm and saying that Cypriot consumers should chip in, but not before the interconnector becomes operational, and that's not expected until 2030. We have to ask why on earth Cyprus would agree to anything before a technical due diligence investigation has been carried out. ADMI has, since March this year, been demanding that Cyprus pay $100 million to buy itself into the project. But the government's stance so far has remained steadfast, demanding access to a cost-benefit analysis and time to evaluate it before coming to a final decision. That's possibly because they're aware of the occasions on which agreements with Greek companies have left the Cypriot taxpayer very much out of pocket. We've had our fingers burnt before. Sarah is reputedly under pressure to agree that Cypriot consumers should pay up front, but so far it's been sticking to its guns. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.